This is the new 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 Touring, and it's my favorite version of the GT3. That's because it's the subtle one. No huge wing on the back that screams, "Look at me!" You get all of the performance and none of the flex. And I love that. And today, I'm going to review it. Before I get started, be sure to check out Cars and Bids, which is my enthusiast car auction website for cool cars from the modern era. We've had some great sales recently on Cars and Bids, including this Audi RS5, which sold for over $32,000. This beautiful Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 went for $120,000, and this fantastic 96 Chevy Impala SS brought over $25,000. If you're looking for a great place to sell your modern enthusiast car, check out Cars and Bids at carsandbids.com. So let's talk GT3. Back in April, I reviewed the new Porsche 911 GT3, and it's a big deal, the track-focused, high-performance version of the Porsche 911. This new model has about 500 horsepower and around 350 pound-feet of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in the mid-3-second range. It also has greatly improved suspension compared to the outgoing model and some other big upgrades. And now there's this. The GT3 Touring is really just a regular GT3 except without the wing. There aren't really any other major changes. Same powertrain, same performance, just a few little upgrades, which I'll show you. But it's certainly more subtle. None of the big look at me wing, just all of the thrill. And today, I'm going to review the new GT3 Touring and show you what I think. First, I'll take you on a little tour and show you a few of its interesting quirks and features. Then I'll get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'll give the GT3 Touring a DOUGSCORE. Alright, time for the quirks and features of the 911 GT3 Touring, although I'm not going to go over everything since I recently did a very thorough review of the new 911 GT3. I'm just going to cover the highlights, and in this case that's mainly like the stuff that's unique to the GT3 Touring, and that means starting back here where there is no fixed wing. And that is the most obvious difference between the Touring and the regular model, and you can see indeed no wing. Looks sort of like a regular 911, a lot more subtle than the GT3 with that massive fixed wing. Now, in place of the fixed wing, you have a badge back here that says GT3 Touring, just in case people didn't know, and you have a little mesh grille on the rear area over this engine cover. Porsche refers to this as a bespoke grille unique to the package. Very pretentious wording, but that's what you have, a little grille and a GT3 Touring logo instead of a fixed wing. Now, worth noting, there is still a wing back here. It's just down right now. It extends when the car goes higher speeds, and then it retracts back into the bodywork when the car slows down to maintain this more subtle look. So you do still have a wing for downforce. It's just not the massive fixed one that you get in the regular GT3. So then you might be wondering, what other changes did they make to the Touring compared to the regular GT3? And I have to say, they are very minor, very pedantic, and very difficult to notice, just like Porsche people like them. I'm going to start on the outside. One change is the silver trim around the windows. You can't get that in a regular GT3. It's black. On the Touring, it comes standard as silver. Same deal with the trim on the exhaust pipe. You can see, again, silver back here. On the regular GT3, I think it's like a dark gray or a black. On this car, silver. Now, worth noting, you can pay extra to get these items blacked out on the GT3 Touring as well to match the regular GT3. But they come standard in silver, and if you keep them that way, it distinguishes this car a little bit, in addition to the rear wing. And next up, the other noticeable exterior change to the GT3 Touring is up front. Take a look at the front of the regular GT3, and you can see most of this area up here is black plastic. It's all black plastic trim around the front bumper area. Not true in the GT3 Touring. You can see it's painted in this car, except for the mesh grille area up front. It's all painted, which is another distinguishing characteristic that separates the Touring from the regular GT3. And next up, we move inside the GT3 Touring, where there are some other differences compared to the regular GT3, mainly focused on materials. Specifically, the Touring has more leather than the regular GT3. For instance, the door panels you can see are all trimmed in real leather. You see the stitching lines throughout. Same deal with the steering wheel. It's all leather with nice stitching as opposed to Alcantara. Like in the standard GT3, there's a lot more leather. It's supposed to be a more luxurious vehicle. And in fact, there is a special leather design in the GT3 Touring. You can see it at the top of the door panel, this little like pattern embossed in the leather. That is GT3 Touring specific. Same deal at the top of the dashboard. You can see this little pattern going across the entire way. Again, specific to the GT3 Touring compared to the regular GT3, meant to evoke, I guess, more of a luxurious sort of old school feel. Same deal, by the way, with the seats. You still get these aggressive sport bucket seats like you do in the standard GT3, but they have cloth in the center as opposed to Alcantara. Alcantara, of course, is a more modern, grippier, futuristic looking material compared to cloth and leather, or more old school feel, which kind of fits the characteristic of the GT3 Touring. By the way, one other notable Touring item I should mention, this car is also offered with a distinctive GT3 Touring watch, because for some reason these days when you talk about Porsches, you also have to talk about watches. And Porsche, who is always distinctly aware of what they can charge their customers extra for, has decided to capitalize on that, and so they are offering a special GT3 Touring specific watch only to GT3 Touring buyers. So that is also a distinction from the regular GT3. Now, aside from that, there really aren't any other big changes from the regular GT3 to the Touring, but I do want to talk about pricing. I have here this car's build sheet. The total sticker price of this is around $183,000, big money, and as usual, there are some ridiculous options in this car, like always on Porsches. For instance, the exclusive design fuel cap costs $160 extra. This thing, $160 for that, which no one will ever see. Brake calipers finished in high gloss black costs $900 extra. They charge you $900 to paint your brake calipers black. Amazingly, one thing they don't charge you extra for is the transmission. This car has a manual transmission, and you have a free choice between manual or Porsche's PDK automatic. This car has a 6-speed manual as opposed to the 7-speed in the regular 992 models. That one is based off of Porsche's PDK. This 6-speed is a totally different unit that's distinctive to the Porsche GT cars. Now, one option I should mention that I do like is the wheels. Instead of, in my opinion, kind of not so attractive blacked out wheels, these are finished in what Porsche calls satin neodyme. I think it looks great, and Porsche charges around $1,300 extra for this finish. I don't know if that's too much or too little, but it is certainly beautiful, and it gives this car a nice look, kind of in keeping with the GT3 Touring's like old-fashioned subtlety, and I like that. All right, now it's time to drive the GT3 Touring. A couple of interesting things about this car. Number one, first thing, don't take this car's performance level for granted just because it's like a subtler version of the GT3. I think a lot of people look at this and they think, oh, the Touring is a softer GT3. That ain't true. There's nothing softer about this car, and that becomes clear the moment you start going over bumps where the ride is the same level of maddeningly harsh as a regular GT3 is, which of course is what people buy these cars for. They want that like race car type feel, and you certainly get that in here. And just because it doesn't have a wing, and just because it seems a little bit more like street car like, it still has the bumps. You are not getting out of it that easy. You still feel everything, and it's still a harsh ride. And of course, with that comes incredibly firm suspension and great handling, but it's not like a softer GT3 by any means. Now, the other thing I want to cover real quick is getting one of these cars. Porsche has limited supply considerably on these cars, and dealers are charging massive markups right now. And people are paying them because that's kind of what the market price is. Porsche has vastly raised the price on their GT3 cars and GT cars in the last few years, and yet market demand is still even higher than their prices are. It's very, very difficult to find one of these. I'm reviewing it as if you could, oh, I like that car, I'll go pick one up tomorrow. The truth is, if you don't already have a very good relationship with your dealership, and if you haven't already bought a few other Porsches, and if you aren't already on the wait list or have an order in, you're not gonna be getting one of these. You're gonna be getting one used and paying probably $50,000, $80,000 over, something like that. It's too bad. But these are not going to be easily accessible and easily purchasable vehicles. There's a lot of demand. But of course, there is good reason that there's a lot of demand for the GT3, and that's because these are unbelievably exciting and enjoyable cars, period. Now, I mentioned that this is the GT3 that I would get if I were getting one of these, and that is because I love the subtlety of this car. But the truth is, I would be thrilled with just about any GT3. They are amazingly enjoyable cars to drive. They are so much fun, they are so fast, and the precision is just fantastic. I love the precision of the steering. This car's steering feel is so exquisitely fantastic. The moment you turn the wheel, you are instantly rewarded by the car, instantly changing its entire course of action. You have to really be paying attention. This is a very immediate car, not quite on the level of like 48 Pista or the top supercars, but it's closer than you'd think given the price point. They also seem to mitigate this car's rear engine situation, which I always find amazing in Porsches, but especially amazing in this one because they do such a great job of it. It feels like a mid-engine car, the way that the weight rotates when you're going through corners. This car has incredible balance. And then there's the factor of the transmission, which is just fantastic. The GT3 that I drove before, reviewed before, was a PDK car. And that was great, and it drove well, and it was a lot of fun, and blah, blah, blah. But there is nothing like a Porsche manual transmission. And I'm reminded of that every time I get in one. It is so tight and so wonderful to shift. It feels so good. And Porsche just does the best job of this. The clutch is so linear, easy to feel. One more point I want to make. I think the GT4, the Cayman GT4, is the best Porsche on the market. And I still feel that way even after driving this car. I love the GT3, it's amazing, but the GT4 is almost as good of a car for what's gonna turn out to be $100,000 less when you factor in market pricing, not sticker pricing. And to me, I wouldn't spend the massive premium for a GT3. I get that there are people who have $1 zillion and they don't care, and that's who buys these. But if you're like thinking, oh, do I do this or that? The answer is go for a GT4 unless you just don't care about the money, because to me, that offers almost the entirely same experience. This is an amazing, amazing car, but it's so expensive and it's gonna be so competitive to get one. GT4 is just almost all the thrill. It just doesn't quite have the GT3 like persona to it. And that's my take on that. And so that's the new Porsche 911 GT3 Touring. I love this car. It's an absolute thrill, and I love the subtlety which is lost on so many modern Porsche models, especially the high performance ones. This car comes with my highest recommendation if you can find one for sale. Anyway, now it's time to give the GT3 Touring a DOUGSCORE. And the DOUGSCORE is here, 68 out of 100, exactly the same score as the regular GT3, because frankly, this is pretty much exactly the same car as the regular GT3. I do think the Touring looks a little better with no wing, but not enough to qualify for a higher styling score, and otherwise it's pretty much all the same. That's not a bad thing, as these are amazing cars, and certainly when it comes to deciding between GT3 models, this will come down to your personal choice, or maybe what you can actually find for sale, since any GT3 will be hard to come by and likely marked up significantly over the sticker price.